Hello everyone, Merry Christmas. My name is Clarabelle. I work for ClickNurse. Okay, today I'm just gonna do question and answer. It's something that I want to do and explain some of the things regarding working in Ireland as a nurse. Okay, I'll get a lot of questions from people on the platform, both privately and people asking on, publicly, both in groups, Facebook groups and everywhere. So I thought it would be nice to do a quick video to explain some of those questions and answers, because we keep getting them regularly, the same thing over and over again, and it feels like you're repeating yourself all the time. But maybe a video will be ideal so that people can actually refer back to that when they have these questions, and they can come back to say, okay, this answers my question. Okay, so let's get started. Now, the first question I will be dealing with, not necessarily that is the first question someone asked, but someone asked a question on the platform that says, does OET has limitations in terms of job opportunities in Ireland? Please explain. Okay, now OET does not have any job limitation in terms of working in Ireland, no. There are two English tests that are required by NMBI, which is Nursing and Midwifery Board Ireland, for you to take. Now, the first one is International English Language Testing System, which we normally call IELTS in short. And then the other one is Occupational English Testing, which is OET. Now, whether you take the IELTS or OET doesn't matter. NMBI Ireland accepts both. So both of them gives you equal opportunity. It does not restrict you or give you less opportunity in terms of job opportunity. So don't worry about that. I find that a lot of nurses who have tried IELTS repeatedly tend to go for OET because they feel it's a lot more easier for them to understand. And then a good number of them tend to pass more quicker, or rather with OET, because they find it kind of the language used is more of a nursing professional language, which makes you feel like you're doing your normal daily duty or things you use every day in your nursing profession or daily practice. So a good number of them find it quite easier to pass with OET. But in terms of job opportunity, no. You don't get lesser job opportunity because you took OET, and you don't get higher job opportunity because you took IELTS either. So both are on equal page, so you can take either that you prefer. All right. Now, let's move on to the next one. Another question was, if one studied nursing in Poland or in any lesser European countries, or in European countries that don't speak English language, but your program was done in English, is that person qualified to practice nursing in Ireland without writing English proficiency test? Wow. It's quite a long question, but I am going to address it the best I can. Now, first of all, there is no lesser European country or lesser European EU country, whatever. No, I understand what this person is trying to say. I guess you mean maybe EU country that does not speak English. I get it. There's no lesser EU country. Now, what I can say is this. I've found a good number of people studying in EU country, but if you study nursing in any of the EU country, if you have done general nursing or what do they call it, or midwifery, if you have done those studies in EU country, it's supposed to give you automatic recognition. It's just like you coming into Ireland to study and you studied nursing. Once you studied nursing in Ireland, the standard is the same. You'll be registered automatically with NMBI, which is the Nursing and Midwifery Board Ireland. So if you have done the same with an EU country, you are likely to get automatic recognition of your qualification with NMBI if you've done general nursing or midwifery. But if you studied maybe psychiatric nursing, or you did children nursing, or you have done intellectual disability nursing, now those three, you still have to go through a recognition process by NMBI. They will have to assess your qualification, but now you will not be a G1 because you did not study in Ireland. You will go through the G2 process, which is for those who studied in EU. Now, if you studied outside EU, you will go through the G3 process. Now, what they've done is they're trying to recognize your qualification, that it is equivalent to the Irish standard. And if they deem it equivalent, they will register you. But where the English proficiency comes in is if you have done your qualification in English, that will be NMBI will have to determine whether they will exempt you from taking the English test. Because lately what they've done is that they have actually not made the English test mandatory for those European citizens coming to work in Ireland. They feel they are leaving it out to employers to determine whether you will take the English test or not. But if NMBI registers you and the employer feels that your English is good enough for them to communicate with you, they may be happy to employ you. But if they feel like, oh no, your English is not good enough, you need to go and do some English, training, then that means you may not be able to get employment. So that, I think they've kind of left it to the employer now if you studied in Europe. But if your English is good, I don't even see why you'll be relegated to go and take an English test again. It's so unfortunate that, some African countries whose lingua franca is English, Ireland is still making them take English test again, like as if their English study is not recognized, which doesn't make sense. Because right from the beginning, from your primary to your university education, every course is taught in English. So that's another part that baffles me. But anyway, that's it for now for this question. Now, let's go to the third question, or rather the next question. Say, do we write any exam once we're in Ireland? You have a choice to write RCSI exam or undertake 6 weeks placement in order to get your PIN. Yeah. Now, when someone is asking if they write exam once they are in Ireland, now once you are in Ireland, because once you get your NMBI decision letter and you find a job and then you get your AWS and come to Ireland, once you're in Ireland, you're required to do 2 things, or one thing actually. You're required to take the RCSI exam or do the clinical adaptation, a 6 weeks clinical adaptation. If you pass the 6 weeks clinical adaptation, NMBI will register you. If you take the RCSI exams and pass it, NMBI will register you. They will register you straight away. So you can either do one or the other. They normally will give you a choice if you are registered as a general nurse. But if you are a psychiatric nurse and you are children's nurse or pediatric nurse, or you are intellectual disability nurse, you are not given the option to take RCSI exam. Rather, you have to take the clinical adaptation route, which is the only option they give you. So that's what happens. So you have a choice if you're a general nurse, either to take the RCSI exam or the clinical adaptation. But all this is actually dependent on what the employer is offering. Okay, because there are some approved facilities for taking the clinical adaptation and some facilities are not approved facilities. So that actually limits you to taking the RCSI exam only. But that's if you are a general nurse. Okay. Now, the next question says, who takes care of accommodation and flight? I get this question a lot because a lot of overseas candidates are looking for a client who will sponsor them. Say, who takes care of accommodation and flight? Of course you! But I get it. Now, some employers would reimburse you for your flight and accommodation, especially HSC. If you get a job with HSC, they're more likely to reimburse your accommodation and flight. A good number of them do. Now, some nursing homes don't. Some of the nursing homes do not, especially the private ones. It depends on who your employer is. Or if you are planning to come to Ireland, you should plan to have money set aside for your flight ticket and your accommodation. These are some of the upfront costs that you have to deal with in terms of coming to Ireland. Okay, so but actually in most cases the candidate should be able to set some finances aside to actually, take care of their flights and accommodation. If you are lucky enough and you get there are some private firms that they have accommodation on site where the nursing home is, and they give you the accommodation to stay for maybe a month or 2 months or even 3 months until you find your own accommodation when you start working and all that. So that's private arrangements. But the rule of thumb is you should have something set aside for your flight tickets, and also at least for your first, month accommodation, because when you come in, you may not start work straight away. Okay, so these are some of the things you have to bear in mind if you're planning coming to work in Ireland. And the next question is, are there agencies that help with accommodation and flights? Yes, there are agencies that will help with accommodation and flight in terms of organizing that for you. Some agencies do take care of it, some don't. So it depends on the agreement the agency has with the employer. Some agencies, but usually when the agencies do this, it takes a long time. For instance, I heard that services, when they do this, it might take them like 6 months to get you. I don't know, but that's what someone told me. So I'm just going by hearsay. Okay, I haven't confirmed this from services, but I'm just saying. But meanwhile, others will tell you, please organize this yourself and then fly yourself in. Some might just organize that and book that for you. So it varies depending on agreement you have with the agency or the agreement the agency has with the employer. But there are some that could do that. But imagine when an agency has like maybe 100 candidates to deal with, and the logistics involved in trying to find accommodation for you. Of course, there is accommodation prices in Ireland already, especially in the big cities, and the accommodation is driving through the roof. Then they're having to book your flight tickets. There's a lot of logistics involved. So bear in mind that if you do this yourself, it will help a lot. It will make things quicker for you than you depending on agencies to do all that for you. But I understand that people want to depend on agencies to do that for them because they don't have the fund to do it. I get it, but there are some agencies that might help you, but not all agencies do that. Okay. Now, the next question is, what is the remuneration like in Ireland? Now, salaries for staff nurse in Ireland starts from 32,000 euros. That is the government stated minimum salary for you to be given AWS visa. Because nursing is part of the occupational or rather critical skill occupation in Ireland, there is a minimum annual salary that the government wants the employer to pay. So, and the minimum is 32k. So that is the starting salary. Now in Ireland actually grades nurses based on their experience. For example, HSC, they have 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 to point whatever it starts. So depending on the number of years experience you are, they will place you on the point scale, and the salary for those number of years vary. Now, some other employers like private firms, they don't grade your salary like HSC. They might just say, oh, we're looking for a staff nurse and what we're paying is maybe 19 euro per hour. If you calculate it, it probably might be around 30 something grand per annum. Varying. Some might pay more, like if you are a clinical nurse manager or your director of nursing. So they have different salary ranges. So these vary from company to company or employer to employer. But for HSE, for sure, you are going to be on a point scale salary, which is based on your number of years of experience. For instance, I've had someone who has had like about 20 years of experience or something like that. You'd be like maybe 47, going to 50k depending. But that is them to decide if they can, assess you, or when they assess you and they say, okay, yeah, we have confirmed your number of years of experience from your employer and we're happy with that, and we're placing you on 0.7 or 0.8 or 0.10 scale of salary, or you are paid based on your experience, and the salary may vary. Okay. Now, another question is, someone is asking, they say, I have a decision letter from NMBI, but my IELTS has expired. What do I do? Whew. Now, this is what we want people to start doing, because initially NMBI was doing it such that you must take your English and OET test first before you start your NMBI registration. But now they have changed the application process. So now you don't have to take your English test first and pass it before you start your NMBI application process. And I think the second process is a lot better. Why I say this is because if, just like now they have changed the process, it will avoid this problem that this person is asking already. So they've gotten their NMBI decision letter and their English has expired. So by rule of thumb, it would be that you have to go and retake your English again, because the English test, which is the IELTS and OET, is only valid for 2 years. And that is not really fair, because considering the amount of energy and time and resources that people put in to actually pass this test, and when they do, by the time they get their NMBI decision letter, their English language test has expired. So now NMBI has changed the application process, and what they've done is they have made the application process differently, such that you do not have to take your English test before starting your NMBI application process, because NMBI application process takes time. And what happens is, what I would advise a lot of people to do is this now going forward: if you have not taken the English test and you want to work in Ireland, don't worry about the English test now. First of all, start your NMBI application process, because it takes time. At least it will take you about 0 to 3 months to gather all your documents. By the time you gather your documents, submit and pay the €350 to NMBI, now you have another waiting period. Normally, it will take them maybe another 90 days for them to respond, and that's 6 months gone. By the time they respond, they might respond with a query, and then you start working on that. Another month gone, that's 7 months gone. And by the time you finish and get your decision letter, another 12 months are gone. So now, if you have taken English test previously, that's 1 year gone out of your English test. And then you now start the job hunting process, which we don't know how long it will take. So what I'm saying is this: NMBI has changed the process, so they do not mandate you to take the English test or pass it before you start your NMBI application process, because you're not even required to submit the English test results in the first phase, which is the recognition process phase. So the first phase, which is the recognition process phase, is where they assess your qualifications, okay, to determine whether the qualification in the overseas country is equivalent to the qualification in Irish standard. And that's the first phase. And by the time they go through these and say, okay, fine, you have some remedies, you have something to remedy with your qualification, go and take the RCSI exam, or go and do 6 weeks clinical adaptation because you lack in some aspect of theoretical content, or you lack some practice hours, and go and remedy that, and then we'll register you. And once you pass any of this, they will give you your registration. All right, it's a lot. I think this second process will be a lot easier. So if your English test has expired, you may have to retake another one. There was a time NMBI put out some announcement to say that because of the COVID, they were going to accept people whose English tests have expired for a certain period of time, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on this, please. So you just have to find out from NMBI to confirm this. But the rule of thumb would be, if your English test has expired, you have to retake another one because it's only valid for 2 years. But right now, if you are yet to take the English test, I advise you to hold on. Don't take the English test yet until you have gotten your NMBI decision letter. Once you get your NMBI decision letter, then you can start taking your English test, because once you pass it, you still have more years, at least 2 years, to get your registration. Yeah, before you can actually take another one. So that's the answer to that question, and I hope I made it clear. And if not, please let me know and I'll explain that again. Now, another question says, I am yet to start my application with NMBI. But my IELTS or English test result has expired. What do I do? That's the one I answered. Sorry about that. Okay, we go again. You say, what does it take to work as a nurse in Ireland? It takes a lot. Now, first of all, you need to have a nursing qualification, either a diploma or bachelor's degree in your own country. That's the first step. And you need to be registered as a nurse in your home country. That is the second step. And then you need to meet the English language test, which is what we're talking about, the IELTS, OET, whichever you choose, it doesn't matter. And then NMBI has a certain score for OET score. NMBI require registration. They require you to have B in any 3 components and plus C in any component. For IELTS, you are required to have 7 in any 3 components, and then 6.5 in any component at all. And after the application process, you either get eligibility letter or a decision letter, And if you get an eligibility letter, you will be required to pay €145 to get your PIN. Okay. Now, if you receive a decision letter from NMBI, you'll be required to complete a 6 weeks clinical adaptation, okay, or take the RCSI exam just like I explained previously. But if you pass whichever one you choose, you become eligible to register. NMBI will need you to pay €145 to actually get your PIN. All right. So, and then the next is you can register with ClickNurse. I'll put the links and descriptions below. So if you go to www.clicknurse.eu, you can submit your CV. If you have your CV and your NMBI decision letter, you can submit that to us, and then we can use that and find you a job. All right, so that will be it for this video today. I will continue the next session for the question and answer part 2. So if you have any question, please don't forget to leave a comment below or ask the questions below, or send us your questions, and then we'll be able to go through that again to clarify you on what you need to do to come and work in Ireland as a nurse. Thank you for watching, and please share this video for those to those who have lots of questions and need answers. Maybe this video will be able to help them. And please click subscribe. And see you again next time. Bye for now.